Hey guys, and welcome to Creators Campfire. This is episode 36, and tonight I have a very special guest. He is a YouTuber and now a podcaster, and he has time to do this in his evenings and weekends because he's 12 years old, so he has to go to school, which makes this even more amazing. And I have to say that I am blown away by his production value, his content, the way he comes across, and just everything about him. It just is so professional, and I'm so glad to have found his content. Guys, please welcome Max Balzer.
Well, Bhav, thank you very much for the kind introduction. I appreciate that. Yeah, I'm just really excited to be here. I've seen some of your episodes, and you do a great job, so I'm excited to be here.
Thank you very much. I'm very excited for you to be on. I remember seeing one of your videos. I think it was Mike, Tech Car Moon, that must have been talking about you on Twitter or something. And I was like, oh, what's this? And I clicked on it and I was just like, damn, like this is insane quality. So I just want to say hats off to you. I am so impressed and I love it. And it genuinely inspires me to up my game. So amazing.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
No worries, honestly. And I think that's a very good place to start. 12 years old and already having been doing YouTube for a year, I believe.
So, yeah, I've been doing YouTube for actually like a month short of 2 years. So, quite a bit longer than a year. So, yeah, no, but I was doing totally different stuff before then. And yeah, so I guess I kind of like to say that I sort of started my channel like around the start of 2020, just because that was sort of when I actually got into tech originally, and that's sort of when I decided that I liked what I was doing on YouTube. Unfortunately, I was not liking what I was doing on YouTube before that, but yeah, no, it's been a lot of ups and downs for sure. I think YouTube is like a really weird thing to be doing, and I think that's what you hear from like a lot of YouTubers, but then even more at my age, like at age 12, doing that and having to, manage school and taking up a bunch of side hustles, I don't know, and like just taking up a bunch of stuff on the side as well is like all super challenging. But yeah, it's definitely taught me, well, I'm still learning, but like it's definitely taught me how to like work to manage my time, and it's a challenging thing, but I'm definitely better because of it, and it's just something that I'm really passionate about, so it's something I hope to be doing for many years to come.
I assure you, if you stick to it, I have no doubt that you will be doing it for many years to come. And in my head I keep going like, this guy is the future MKBHD, right? Like he has the potential to be that good, so honestly I have no doubt that you're absolutely going to smash it.
Well, thank you, I appreciate that.
So take me back, because when I was 10, 11, 12, I know we didn't really have YouTube, but I struggled to talk to people, but you are out there putting yourself online, and I know it's a very slightly different world now to what it was, but still, what kind of makes you go, I'm like 10, 11, I'm going to go and start a YouTube career? Like what's going through your head?
Well, right. So I'm, I guess this kind of goes into like a separate story, which is about like why I'm just naturally like a social person. But I don't know. It's hard to know because I don't even understand why I started. I'm very happy I did because it was definitely a great decision. But I couldn't really tell you why I started. Like I'm not really sure. I mean, people ask me like, why did you start making videos? And I'm like, oh, because I'm passionate about tech. But like that's not really an answer to why I started making YouTube videos. Like that's kind of out there, but like it's sort of part of it. But I don't know. Yeah, I'm just naturally someone who was very comfortable being online. Like I would be posting like I thought it was like a super big deal. I'm like posting Instagram stories to like my 90 followers who are like all my close friends because I had a private account and stuff. Like, so it was sort of I felt like it was a little bit of a natural path for me just because I'm overall a social person and enjoyed tech, and therefore social media kind of came right into that. And so I think like, yeah, I'm not really sure, honestly. Like it was it was something that I was doing, I was enjoying it, and now I'm enjoying it even more because I've made friends and I've gotten to come on awesome podcasts and chat with awesome people like this, and it's just overall like I'm not really sure, honestly, like what would have been going through my head. It was a really complicated process of how I kind of started, but yeah, it's you could bring it down to like it was just I'm just passionate about technology, but there's a lot more to it than that.
Yeah, no, that's cool. I mean, to be honest, people now don't really know why they get into things. Like some people have a very clear, this is what I want to do and this is why I want to do it. But like, I think it's absolutely fine to not have a, this is what I'm doing. But also, I guess at that age, again, it's like such an amazing thing to be able to explore all these different options and avenues. And like you said, as a social person, it's like, hey, cool, I could just, jump onto YouTube and create content there.
Absolutely,
and that kind of brings me onto Twitter as well, because you are very active on Twitter, which is awesome. And again, something I'm like, damn, I wish I was that active. No, but it's super cool. But then you create this community and these relationships on Twitter as well. And I'm sure you have created and fostered those relationships. How has that kind of been for you, and how important has Twitter been?
Yeah, so I don't want to give myself or necessarily let others give me credit for building a community necessarily. Like, I feel like, yeah, I sort of get credit for that. Like, that's not me boasting. Like, that's just me saying, like, yeah, I guess, yeah, yes, I do. But, like, then there are other people who are also, like, really big parts of that. There are people who I didn't know until, like, a few months ago, but they have, like, built a Discord server with me. And, like, we've kind of built a community there. We've built a community on Twitter. And yet Twitter has just been, like, one of, if maybe actually the most important and the most helpful asset to me. And like my Twitter account has just been like the thing that has helped me go from like someone getting like 1 subscriber a month to someone, wherever I am now. But like I feel like Twitter is just so important. So I've gotten a lot of DMs recently like, how should I start a channel? What would you tell me to do? Or what would you say like I should be doing when I want to start a channel? And I'm like, well, you're clearly already on Twitter, so use Twitter, promote your stuff, like use hashtags, interact with people on Twitter, only the people who you are comfortable interacting with. And like there's just overall like a really, really good community aspect and just a really helpful YouTube growth aspect on Twitter that has just been like very surprising to me, because before I brought YouTube into Twitter, I was tweeting like once a month, unrelated, like garbage, whatever, doesn't really matter. Like it was totally kind of not something that I was invested in. I barely ever opened the Twitter app. But then once I started meeting people online, usually through Instagram, and then they were like, oh, you should join Twitter. And I'm like, I have Twitter. And they start following me. And then I had to like delete all of my old tweets and stuff because I'm like, I don't want anyone to see that. And so it's just overall been like a really helpful and an amazing tool and asset to be using. And I think like if anyone is watching this and thinking like, how will I start a YouTube channel? How will I bring it to the level of people like me, my friends, and then farther beyond? Like I feel like Twitter is just one of the most important things that you should be using, just because it's, if you're active on Twitter, and something that I always say is you have to get to the place where I am and like, having people like replying to my tweets and kind of engaging with me and some of the other people who've helped me build this community. I think that you do have to reply, you have to be active on Twitter, you have to be active in that community, because if you're not, then people will just be like, well, I'm replying for no reason, like I'm replying because I want to like talk with this guy, but he won't talk back to me or whatever, like not talk back in a bad way, but like it's just a certain level of just community aspect that you need to, like Twitter is already a community place in a way, but then bringing a community aspect even more into that is how I think you build like a community, how you help people find your YouTube channel, how you grow, I think. Yeah, no, I think that is incredibly good advice, to be honest, because there's a lot of people that, exactly like you say, they're like, I want to grow my channel, but how do I do this? And also a lot of people say, actually, I don't like social media or something. And right.
I guess my question to you is, which is quite interesting that you said you didn't necessarily use it before, is do you think, as someone who's grown up with social media, even though you didn't use it, do you think you're in a better position to use it or not? Because again, you weren't using it necessarily before, and there are people that are maybe my age or older that say, oh, that's not really my thing, that's a young person's thing. But do you think that actually even plays a part?
That's a really good question, actually. That's making me think. So interesting. Yeah. Well, so I've always kind of been inclined to use social media. I mean, like, from the age I started on Instagram, and by started I mean like posted pictures on Instagram and stuff like that. Like I kind of started social media overall on Instagram. I didn't really have any social media before that, and also I didn't feel a need for social media, to be honest. Like I just felt like social media was kind of out there, not really necessary for me. Like, what am I going to be doing? Like, I don't have anything to do on social media. I don't have anything particularly good to say at like age 10 on social media about anything, because I'm not really focused on very much at the moment back then. And so I think overall it's kind of been just that I've always been inclined to use social media ever since like I started on social media, but using Instagram and then Twitter, I was actually thinking about this earlier, which is just that like I find it really impressive for people who have actually managed to build a following on both Twitter and Instagram, because I have literally not been able to go on Instagram because I don't have any time. I don't know what I'm going to do on Instagram. I don't really know what I'm doing on Twitter either, but I actually am committed to thinking about that. And on Instagram, I'm like, well, I'm already thinking about what I'm going to do on Twitter. Like, what am I going to do on Instagram? That's just like a total other area that I'm just gonna go die in a hole. Like, what am I gonna do? Like, it's a little bit like, I think I'm just very impressed by people who are actually able to do that on both Twitter and Instagram, and that's kind of both that's kind of double the forces and double the growth and double the overall attention and stuff, and I think that's good on the one hand and then bad on the other, because that's just showing that some people maybe take social media too seriously. I feel like if I split my time between Twitter and Instagram, then maybe I could grow a bit more. I don't know. It's a lot of kind of really deep thinking that you have to think about there, because you're thinking like, how will this help me? How will this influence this? How will this influence that? And so I enjoy social media. I enjoy it a lot more now. Lockdown has definitely made it a lot overall, just like, social connection is overall just, if there was a graph of how much social connection there's been online, it would have like gone exponentially up in lockdown. And I feel like everyone kind of knows that. And I think that Twitter has just overall, and Instagram and social media has just been something that's a lot more that's really helpful to me in lockdown. And I didn't feel inclined to use it necessarily before, but now I very much do.
Yeah, no, I think that's a really good answer. And I think if anything, that kind of puts people's mind at ease. No matter how old they are, it's not a young person's game.
Yeah, for sure.
It's the approach you take to it, right?
Yeah.
You have to take it seriously and utilize it in the best way for your channel or whatever platform you want to grow. But I think it's also really good that you are fully aware that you have picked a platform and you're like, I'm focusing on this one and this is what I'm going to make work.
Yeah.
And actually, I don't need to be on every single platform. I'm focusing on Twitter. That's what works for me. And it's very clearly worked for you.
Right.
And congratulations on 1,000 subs, by the way.
Thank you very much.
That's an amazing achievement.
Thank you so much.
So if we go back to kind of your YouTube channel specifically, and obviously you are a tech YouTuber, right? That's how you would talk about yourself and classify yourself. I guess what I'm trying to say is over the past, I'm going to call it a year, because that's kind of when you said you kind of shifted, and that's what you're doing. So over that year, your content has obviously changed over time and evolved.
For sure.
What's that journey been like for you, and how much, I guess, have you learned along the way?
Oh, I mean, I've learned a ton, and definitely, like, I've learned more than, well, so I think this does actually factor in a lot to talking about lockdown earlier, which is just that, like, there's been so much time to learn, and I'm sure you can relate to this. Like, I mean, you started your podcast in lockdown, right?
I did, yes.
Yeah, so I mean, we've all sort of decided that like this is something that we have more time to do, number one, and number two, like we're just able to kind of focus down and think about like what am I going to be doing, and what is what do I think is the right thing for me to be doing at this moment. And so I think that interesting. Yeah, I've just learned so much. It's hard to distill it down to like, one or two lessons, but I mean, I've learned a lot about like how to handle yourself online. There are arguments you shouldn't get into, many arguments and conversations that you should not get into. And overall, it's just been a huge year of learning, which I think that a lot of people have been able to relate to and can relate to at this point. And so, yeah, it's just overall been a really big and long journey. And I mean, I've learned along the way that I'm like passionate about content creation, filmmaking, tech overall. Like that's something that I've learned, and that's something that I wouldn't have expected to learn. I've learned that, and I guess that's part of why, well, that's kind of one of the only reasons why that 2020 was like a good year for me, a terrible year for others. I feel like I shouldn't be saying like it was a good year for me, because it was a horrible year for so many people, and a horrible year for me, honestly, but it's helped a lot of us, I think, along the way to find stuff that we didn't know before.
Yes, yeah. It's that balancing act. I mean, it's that same in everything, right? Just because you shouldn't feel bad for having a good year, I suppose, is what I'm saying, and for learning a lot, regardless. But it's one of those difficult situations. But so sorry, going back to like your learnings and stuff, but also your physical content. Like if you see your production value, and this is something I wanted to touch on, and obviously you're into tech anyways, so that kind of stuff comes naturally to you. But again,
Absolutely.
if you look at, and maybe I'm doing a disservice, but if you look at like other people at 10, 11 years old, people at my age struggle with that production value. So how did you kind of go about that? Because I guess, again, that has evolved over time, but how easy does that come for you? And is it just, again, people think, setting up to film a YouTube video, this is a pain in the backside.
Yeah.
What is that like for you? Is this like, I can't wait to set this stuff up? Or is it, I also have to do that?
Yeah. Okay. That's actually a really interesting question. Well, I think the funny thing is that people say, and again, this is not me boasting, this is literally me saying, like, people tell me a lot, like, wow, your production quality is amazing, and I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. What am I doing to make my production quality good? Like, if this is good, like, how do I help others, like, make their production quality good too? Like, how do I do this? Like, I sort of understand what it is, but not really. I mean, I've accumulated so much knowledge, and there's way more than I've already learned to learn in the future. But like, I've accumulated enough knowledge apparently that I can, set stuff up that looks good. And sometimes I enjoy setting it up. Sometimes I don't enjoy setting it up. Like times like this, I had to kind of set this up like exclusively for this podcast because I wanted it to sort of not be like. Anyway, it doesn't matter. But I was kind of thinking about like how every time I go into shooting a video, I think about like, how can I make this video better than the last video? And I'm sure that, you think about that. How can I make this podcast better than the last podcast? How can I make this video better than the last video? And so I think I do enjoy it sometimes. Sometimes I dread it as well. It's a weird, like, I don't know what it is. Like, it's a weird circle of existence. Like, this setup is good, it's perfect, it's amazing, I love it, and then I'm like, I don't like that, and then I just like tear it apart again. And it's like a weird circle of like, you like this, you don't like this, then you change it, but then you actually like that and you can't go back to it because you can't remember what you did with it. And it's an overall interesting process to set up different stuff. I try to change it up every video, and like, for example, this one is much different from anything that I've ever done on my channel before, and it's stuff like that I just find enjoyable. Like I really do enjoy like figuring out what I can do to make it better, figuring out what I can do to fix problems that I had in the last try or the last attempt. But yeah, no, it's something that I enjoy sometimes, something I don't enjoy sometimes. I'm sure you can relate to that. It's just overall an interesting process that I've learned a lot about over the last year as well.
Yeah, no, amazing. I think that's such a good mentality in life in general, to be honest, that what can I do better this time versus last time. So yes, what a great outlook to have in general. Okay, so your actual workflow, right? Because again, when I'm talking production, I'm also talking how well you come across in your videos or in these podcasts, for example. Like, you speak very well.
Thank you.
You know your stuff, and that very clearly comes across. And again, maybe I don't know 12-year-olds anymore, but like, is another thing that I'm very impressed with. And again, when you're going into your kind of filming, what does your workflow look like? Because I guess it's how much do you script, how much do you plan out, how much do you almost rehearse versus, hey, it's a bullet point and I kind of know my stuff and I can just go and do it.
Yeah, so it's funny. For some of my videos, I've done like heavily scripted, fully scripted, and that's very obvious in the video, unfortunately. Like, that was back, in like June, April, May, kind of around then. And I've definitely decided that, like, I don't need to be doing that anymore. And I think that I can attribute, like, what I am, like, I guess, these are your words, not mine. I'm trying really hard not to boast here. That, like, I'm, like, well-spoken or whatever. Like, I don't know about that. A lot of the kids in my class are, but I don't know. I think about that and I think I attribute that a lot to the fact that I'm so interested in politics and news. And so I, like, a lot of the time, like, and this is something, like, maybe some people don't know unless they go back and look at my old tweets, that, like, I am really, really interested in, like, the way that journalism works. I want to be a journalist when I'm older. That's overall, like, a world that I'm really interested in. And I think I attribute a lot of me speaking well, according to some people, to that and to just me reading. And so, like, my grandpa was a lawyer, and he like, still writes a lot, and he's overall, like, a really great writer. My mom went to school for journalism. I feel like I credit them a lot for like, writing a lot and speaking a lot. Like, I talk a lot. I'm talking way too much right now, but it's overall, like, just something that I enjoy doing. I just like talking, and I like thinking about what I'm talking, for sure. And so that actually kind of goes right into your question, which is, I used to heavily script my videos because I, like, wasn't sure what I was talking about. There was, like, a Black Lives Matter video I made a long time ago. Don't watch that. That was when I didn't know what I was doing. I was copying other YouTubers who did that too. It was overall, like, not a good idea, but I scripted that, and it didn't sound, never mind. But then there was other stuff, like, the fact that I would, like, literally be sitting there and visibly holding my iPad and watching it, like, looking at the, like, script right there. And that was when I was scripting it. I'm never good at scripting it. I hate having my eye line off, which I know that you can probably relate to. And I just hate, like, not looking at the camera. And so I'm not even doing that very well right now. And so I went through, like, a phase in middle of November to, like, middle of December where I was like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna like, work really hard in Notion and, like, do a bunch of, like, amazing bullet points, and I'm gonna, like, make sure the pages look really cool, like, for my own self-enjoyment of it or whatever, and, like, just total random stuff like that, and totally, like, stuff I did not need to be doing, was totally extra, totally unnecessary. And at this point, I'm hoping, I want to be writing more of my videos out, but not scripting, for sure, not scripting, but, like, using bullet points, using stuff like that. I definitely want to be doing more of in the future, and pretty soon, actually, just because sometimes I'll do a review, go right to edit it, and then, like, lose the opportunity to record it again, and I'll be like, like, the camera battery is dead or something, like, random stuff like that, that ends up, like, totally halting the entire process, and I forget about stuff that I want to talk about. And it's honestly the only thing that I feel like I need to improve when it comes to like my workflow of filming videos and like writing the stuff down is I literally just need to list all of the things that I'm going to talk about, because I know what to talk about in each of those things, but I just forget them. Like I forget the sorts of things that I mean to talk about. And so that's like one of the biggest issues that I really need to solve. So
yeah. I mean, the good thing is people don't know what you've forgotten, but yes, you know. Well, and I totally get it.
Yeah, unfortunately with like tech reviews and stuff like that, you're sort of talking about stuff that some people who watch it already know. And so they'll be like, oh, why didn't he talk about that? Or why didn't he talk about that? And it's like puzzling to some people. Anyway, yeah, so I don't know. That's one of the big things that I want to improve soon.
Yeah, no, that's fair. And okay, so on the subject of tech, as a tech reviewer, something that stops people is, oh, I don't have enough money for tech,
right,
or oh, I can't go and buy the latest gadgets all the time or keep up with it. How do you kind of go about that? And again, with your setup, you've got like some amazing gear. So how do you kind of go about that?
Right. So a lot of it boils down to selling old stuff. Like at the start of quarantine, I literally just sold off a ton of stuff. And that's kind of what it boils down to, really. Like my whole setup has sort of come from, like, this is like becoming like really kid, like, you know, come from like allowance and stuff like that, birthday money, stuff like that. And yeah, it's overall just been like just selling, you know, the old camera and buying a new camera and stuff like that, which is sort of the way that like people like me are able to afford that sort of thing. And like, you know, I'm like really lucky to like have parents who like, you know, pay for my phone or whatever, and like and stuff like that, who are, I'm like really lucky to be in that sort of position. And I don't know, it's a lot of saving, really. Like I mean, like I'm saving for something else right now. Like it's just a lot of saving, working, like Fiverr stuff, which nobody knows I do, but like
they do now, Max.
Well, yeah, I know now they do, so I should probably go hide. Yeah, no, it's like it's a lot of that. And I mean, there are people who aren't as lucky as me. There are people who are more lucky than me. It's an interesting world to be in, just because it's so difficult for some people, so easy for others. But yeah, so
yeah, no, that's awesome. Again, it's a great mentality, because that, like I said, there are people that are like, oh, I can't do that, but it's exactly like you said, you have stuff around the house. And I think it's something that Gary Vee says all the time, is you've got stuff, sell it, make some money and invest it. So yeah, no, it's really good. Very good outlook.
And something people don't know is like I review a lot of other people in my family's tech, so like that's something also that people don't know, but that's something that I do too. So, you know, you do what you can, really.
Exactly. You make it work when you want to make it work. Yeah. I love it. So, Max, you have also just started a podcast.
I have.
Which is super exciting.
Thank you very much.
What was the thinking behind that, and how is it going?
Yeah, so right now it's really going really well. But yeah, well, I couldn't really, I don't know. The thinking behind it was, I mean, I've had like 3 podcasts in the past. And it was all like my family listening to it and stuff. Some of them, like, I didn't even promote them, like nobody listened to it and stuff like that. And so like it's always, as I explained in like the video I posted, it's always a format that I really enjoy, and it's a format that I overall like really appreciate, and it's a format that I just find, on the one hand, really easy to do and to produce content in that specific format, but also I just enjoy it a lot. Like, it's a fun thing to, I mean, you know, before I would have never gotten guests on the podcast. I would have never, you know, gotten like MBT Jack and Renee Ritchie on my podcast or whatever. Like, you know, that's totally like out of there. Like, I couldn't even dream of that back then. And so I'm in a really lucky position right now that there are other people, and right now we're going to talk more about Twitter. Like, there are people who I literally just DM on Twitter, and they're like, yes, I would be honored, like, please have me on, that would be amazing. And like, that's people who are bigger than me, smaller than me, and it's just a format that I enjoy. Okay, if I'm being honest, I listen to very few podcasts. I listen to some podcasts. I just never find that I have the time. Like, some people don't know, like, I literally just like, hold on. What am I trying to say? Oh yeah, so like, I record on like Sunday nights, like right before like I go to bed or something, like right there, like no time left, like at the very last second, and like I'm always having like, you know, time constraints, and always having like I don't have time and stuff like that. So I feel like listening to podcasts and literally like spending an hour, and if you're listening to the Joe Rogan Experience, like 3 hours of your day listening to that, if you're really interested in it and you have the time to, like, that's great, and it's a great format to listen to. It's really enjoyable. But video podcasts, number one, I find a lot more fun to listen to, and I underestimated the amount of people who actually listen to podcasts, because I did not expect that there would actually be the sheer amount of people who are like listening to my podcast, because I didn't even think that anyone listened to podcasts, because like my podcast is is an audio only podcast, because I cannot possibly handle video, and like even this was like hard enough to set up, and so like, and some people like are just thinking, are saying like, you know, if it's a video podcast, like I'm gonna have to say no, because like it's too hard to set this up. And I'm like, I totally get it. I know, that's why I'm not doing a video podcast. And it's like, I am like, hats off to you for figuring all of this out, because like it's really, really impressive. And I already take like 6 hours to edit a 6-minute long video, and so like having to edit like a 45-minute long video, syncing audio, doing all of that stuff, like editing my podcast that's sometimes 20 minutes, sometimes 45 minutes long, is hard enough already, and bringing video into that on like a one-person team like I am would be like impossible. And so it's going really well. I'm really enjoying it, honestly, and I'm really enjoying talking to people who I never would talk to usually, and like I'm having Zoom calls with people who like I would dream of having Zoom calls with, and like talking to them and stuff. So it's overall something I'm really enjoying.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. I'll let you in on a secret though. If you live stream the podcast, there's no editing involved, which is what I did until very recently.
Yeah, that's true. But then like you have to deal with the live stream, and you have to deal, like the one live stream I've tried to do like did not work. And so I'm like, how am I going to possibly do it? I mean, I could do a live stream, honestly, but like, you know.
No, I like, I've listened to your podcast and they are top quality, and again, and something,
thank you very much.
I don't know why I didn't think of this, but seriously they are. But like audio, the podcasts are made for audio only, right? The video element is great for repurposing or something, but actually it is an audio first podcast. So yes, absolutely concentrate on the audio, because it is top notch and it sounds insane, and it's good quality content. So keep at it.
So the other thing about that actually is that I think that like having I think you bring up like repurposing, which I think is important too, because like I feel like I would love to be able to like post the video on YouTube, or like post the video on some sort of like separate YouTube channel. But number one, I'm not big enough to like, you know, grow a YouTube channel at that level to very big. Like there are people who have started podcasts at like 200,000 subscribers, and their podcast channel has like 200 subscribers, and so it's like it's seemingly kind of impossible to grow on a podcast channel unless you're like a really, really well known. And so I'd love to be able to post videos from it and clips from it on Twitter and stuff like that, just like little snippets from it where we talk about this sort of thing or that sort of thing. But number one, I wouldn't do it live stream, because that's like a whole other like nobody realizes how many like, oh no, I didn't mean to say that, sorry, I'm using a script from yesterday that I sorry, I didn't mean like his, I meant her, or whatever like that. So it's stuff like that that's like pretty weird that would be happening, but it's the sort of thing that would be colossally embarrassing to happen like live on the internet, which would be like, you know. So yeah, that's kind of my answer to that.
Have you given much thought about where you want to take the channel and its future, or are you kind of just taking it one video at a time almost?
I'd say I'm not doing either. Like, I'm not taking it one video at a time because I feel like if I'm not planning ahead enough, I'm gonna end up in a place where I'm like, you know, out of whatever. I don't know, like that's a whole other conversation, but like I'm not taking it one video at a time necessarily, just because I think that that's a little bit of a dangerous approach. Some people do that and they've been successful as well. I think that's great, but yeah, one video at a time is a little bit scary to me, just because I feel like you have to think about like what's happening in the future, like what the next video you're going to make is, what the next video you're going to save up to buy is, or stuff like that. The next product, I think I said that. Like stuff like that I feel like you have to plan ahead to really see it coming. And so I'd love to do it one video at a time, because that would make it a lot less time consuming, I think. But ultimately, one video at a time and planning ahead 2 weeks is going to be the same amount of time, just taken out of different time blocks, really. And so, yeah, I don't really have like an end goal necessarily. Excuse me. I don't really have like a necessarily end goal, really. I don't even know what an end goal means, like, because I'm not gonna quit, and I'm not gonna be like, once I hit 200,000 subscribers, I'm gonna delete my YouTube account or something like that some people do, which I find like really strange. But yeah, I don't know. I just think like it's a fun little project that some people call it, and it's just overall something that I enjoy doing. And yeah, I don't really see myself stopping, but I also don't know when I'll call it a day, but I don't know.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely fair. I think that's a very good approach. So yeah, good stuff. As someone who has started very young and done very well, and has obviously learned a lot on the way, what advice do you have for someone who wants to start a channel now, whether they're 10, 20 or 50? Right.
I would just tell them, which is something that a lot of people don't know, is that like I've struggled with like being confident a lot, not necessarily on YouTube. Like YouTube has sort of been that kind of escape for me. Like I've been able to be confident like that, and I think about not being confident in stuff like, this is turning into like a tell-all interview. It's stuff like the fact that like at school nobody really knows what I'm talking about on YouTube. Like nobody believes that like those are the videos that I make or whatever, and stuff like that it's a really hard thing to navigate, and that's something that I've had to navigate for a really long time. Like, most people in my class are super interested in sports or video games or something, neither of which I am, and I think that YouTube is growing a lot on YouTube and Twitter. That's kind of given me a little bit of like ooh, look at me, I have 1,000 subscribers, and like, now am I cool or whatever. And so stuff like that in school is sort of the sort of thing that I have been like looking forward to being able to do, just because I've never really fit in necessarily. But yeah, I don't know, it's definitely gotten me a lot more confident, just because there are now people watching and I have to be confident, and I've learned to be confident, and I think that's something that like I'm a lot better because of.
Actually, that's something I can relate to, and I guess I don't have the school crowd, so to speak, but I almost feel more comfortable and confident doing a YouTube video at home or a podcast like this, that has in turn made me more confident speaking to people and being on calls or at work. So actually it can work the other way. It doesn't have to be, I need to be confident to go and do a YouTube video.
Absolutely.
It could actually be the other way around. Out of interest, what do your friends and your family kind of think of you being a YouTuber? Because this is something a lot of people struggle with. They're like, oh, my friends and family wouldn't understand.
Right, absolutely. No, they totally they understand, like they're proud of me. They're like super cool with it. Like, it's interesting. So I've heard like stories from people who are like, oh, my family and like my parents just found out that I make YouTube videos, and they're like, I've been making YouTube videos for 2 years, and I'm like, What? Your family didn't know and you kept it a secret for 2 years? Like, what on earth? Like, that takes like some serious like dedication to do that. And no, like, I've been really fortunate to like literally my dad like sitting next to me when I uploaded my first video, and like I'm like they've just been really supportive, and they've just overall been like really cool with it, and yeah, they've helped me like with trouble that I've found on the internet and stuff like that. So yeah, no, I'm overall like really fortunate to be in a position where I have a family that's supportive and like proud, and that know that I make YouTube videos, and it's just overall something that, I don't know, I'm really happy and really grateful that I've been born into a family that they're fine with that and they're happy with that, and they're like celebrating my successes when I do.
Yes, that's amazing, and I wish everybody had that kind of support around them. I mean, I try and tell my family, but they really don't care. So, so that's fine. No, but that's fine. That's amazing. Yeah, it's cool. Max, I would like to thank you very, very much for coming and joining me on the show today. I've had a wonderful time. I've learned a lot, and I'm very grateful for you taking the time out to come and join me.
Thank you so much for having me. Yeah, I've really enjoyed participating in this tell-all interview with Max Balzer.
Yes, I hope it doesn't get you into trouble, but I love having the exclusive scoop.
No, I don't think so. Yeah, no, yeah, a lot of people do, so I'm glad I could do that today. Amazing.
Max, finally, where can people find you?
I am at MaxBalzer _ on Twitter, and you can find my YouTube channel at youtube.com/MaxBalzer.
Max, once again, thank you very much, and thank you guys for watching and listening, and I'll see you guys in the next one.
Bye.
Bye.